Hey, nice to fumble around on the live stream. Welcome to yet another Merge Roundtable. We're going to talk a little bit about everything that we normally talk about. I'm here with Frank and Mark, and we're going to talk a little bit about blockchain. We're going to talk a bit about some earnings call stuff that came out this week. Obviously some Web3 stuff, so stick around. We'll be right there.
Let's do it.
All right. We're here again for another one of these. Have you been on every one of them, Frank?
I think so.
That's cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have not,
Welcome
unfortunately.
back.
I'm sad by that.
It's sad. Well, you know.
Saw a lot of good conversations happening.
We'll kick Frank out or me out for a couple of them. You can just run the show.
That's right. That's right. Look, nobody wants to see us anyway, right?
Yeah. Right. You know, as long as there's Mark representation somewhere on the show, I'm happy. You know?
Honestly, you should just like write my name across the table, so when I'm not here, I'm still here.
Just an empty Dunkin' Donut cup for me will be fine, right? Yeah. I didn't know how much time I had. There was a little traffic, and so I was like, should I stop there? Shouldn't I stop there? I was like, I'll stop. I won't stop.
We need to get you like a permanent, like one of those
dispenser,
like those fake Starbucks cups that are like not real, but they're
and there's so few of them there here in town, and there's one pretty close to my place, and I'm saying, you know, I spend a lot of time in the Northeast. I'm not going to say that I'm a Dunkin' Donuts fan, but like, you know, not a sponsor, but if you want to be, feel free to reach out to us at the Merge.
I was going to ask you, are you a big Dunkin' Donuts guy?
I like it so much better than any of the other coffees. Like, you know, I can stomach Starbucks, but it's coffee.
Yeah.
Right? I don't need something special. I just want a cup of coffee.
I love how convenient Starbucks is. That's the best thing I can say about Starbucks coffee.
Yeah, it's pretty much everywhere. I remember, and I don't know what their model is now, but this was going back 15 plus years ago, and I was just like, how do we get a franchise? Right? Like, I wanted to open it. I saw what was going on, right? You know, so I reached out to them, and they said, yeah, we don't franchise. The only time that we do something like that is if you own an airport, and that's like, you have to be part owner. And that doesn't sound like it applies to you, kid. Beat it. You know?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Cool.
Well, I figured we could start out with what I wrote my newsletter about today. I kick out my newsletter every Wednesday or Thursday usually. And I saw this news story that it made me, because I've been rewriting a lot of my old Ask Dr. Bitcoin scripts because we're getting ready to film a new season. And I was on the episode of where I was like telling people how to spot a scam coin. As I'm rewriting this episode, it occurs to me how very close to what we were calling Ponzi coins in the ICO era pretty much every meme coin is. And so I really spent some time in my newsletter this week breaking down what the difference is between a meme coin and that speculative thing that happens there, and what was going on with like USI Tech and BitConnect and that sort of thing. That's an interesting discussion, but what made it pertinent for the newsletter this week was UK lawmakers are calling for crypto to be regulated not as a finance sector, but as a gambling sector.
Wow.
Which the UK lobbyist organization for the blockchain sector is like, no, why? You shouldn't do that. They're pushing back on that. But I got to be honest, like, I'm not hating this idea. It seems like it might be easier to get licensing for a casino than it would be to get Bitcoin as an ETF or something. I mean, it's
probably true.
Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. I have not heard of this news yet, so thank you for bringing that to my attention. But I don't agree with that fully. I mean, as much as I agree with meme coins as being a lot of gambling, I think that there is a big market of people who are finding opportunities in one way or another. And I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying they're wrong. But I do think that a lot of people get interested into crypto because of meme coins. And what happens is you get into it because of the money aspect of it, the gambling side of it, right? But then a lot of people want to take it to the next level. They want to learn about the crypto. They want to learn about the blockchain. They want to learn about the back end. And for me, that's important because, you know, education and just adopting people into the space. So I think it's interesting that this segment of the market even exists, like meme coins, you know. But I obviously could see why it's gambling. But as a younger person in my generation, I see a lot of people like they get into it because of the money, but they come out of it being in crypto and in blockchain, not into necessarily meme coins and trading, but the technology behind it, the smart contracts, the decentralized finance, you know. So I think it's an interesting topic.
I think there's some good and bad there. You've got, and this comes from someone who remembers what it was like when I was your age, and I actually like didn't really know exactly how markets worked and how. For me, I was like, the stock market, that's gambling enough. I don't understand how this whole thing works, right? But, you know, our thought behind it is like it's a positive number year over year since the beginning of the curve. So, you know, if you leave your money in long enough into a broad index, then it grows over time. Hopefully it beats inflation. That's all it's supposed to do. But it's regulated, right? There's exchanges. There's all these, you know, people accept it, and there's like contracts. And I'm not saying that crypto, Web3 coins, altcoins, all these things aren't and don't have a place in the natural order. But you're not wrong that if it's not regulated, why wouldn't you gamble with it? I actually have a very dear friend who is a casino. He started off as a casino analyst, and now he's an investment banker in that casino space. So that would be kind of fun. We should totally bring him on or talk about something like that and see, you know, regulation one way or the other. So now we can throw the gaming commission, the Federal Gaming Commission, into the hunt for regulation. Right?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying all that as like a critic of crypto. You know, I'm a big booster for
100%.
blockchain.
Right.
I think. And I think there are some key I'm definitely not calling degen investing and meme coins a scam for sure. It's definitely differentiated from the Ponzi coins of the mid last decade, because in those situations you're talking about centralized organizations that were, by any measure, issuing securities on the blockchain. They were speculative vehicles. They were centrally controlled. There was no upper bound on how many tokens they could issue and if they could increase at any given point, just like every corporate stock ever issued. And degen coins and these meme coins, almost not universally, but generally, are either fair launched or stealth launched. They're ERC20 tokens where the code is 100% auditable prior to launch or right during kind of the vetting process of the sub $100,000 market cap. But that also, you know, while that differentiates it from the scams, it makes it look an awful lot like you guys like play with Satoshi dice back when that was a thing. So this is like one of the first applications for blockchain on Bitcoin specifically was a provably fair dice betting system where they would use the hash for the block as it was solved as the seed for the dice roll. And so you could tell that the dice roll was done fairly by doing some backwards math on with the seed. And so you could bet on high-low every single block of the blockchain, and it would be provably fair, much like a degen coin launch.
Were you doing that when I was doing things like tic-tac-toe? I'm just curious.
Yes. There's a whole other rabbit hole I could go down where you tried to prove or disprove the existence of luck using mathematics. Yeah.
We were one of the early companies that I had looked at very early on in my career in private investing was a company called Wisp. And it was run by these three really smart engineers. There's this guy named Percy Bethany. I remember his name because it was like really interesting. And it was back when there was the debate between GSM and CDMA and CDPD and which technology is better and the mathematics behind the algorithms, right? That's how people were making money back then on wireless. And he said that, you know, a lot of these things, a lot of these games, and a lot of this math is just, you know, for people like me, it's mental masturbation. And I just never forgot that quote because I was like, huh, okay. I was like, You are very smart. You're very, very much smarter than me. And this is what you do in your downtime.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you were able to figure out with that card system in Cryptonomicon really worked was hilarious.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, that is fantastic.
It was fun.
Yeah. So back on the track about the gambling versus the other thing. The other part of it is that, we were always told when we were first learning about presenting different types of mutual funds to investors was sell the sizzle, not the steak, right? It's like, so the idea behind this particular fund is that it invests in companies that grow their dividends under the assumption that a company that's increasing their dividend means that they're a healthy company, and healthy companies then tend to survive, right? And that's simple, right? As opposed to saying, well, it's got this ratio and this is what percentage of this, and this is how they choose their investment. So it's the same thing. Sell the sizzle, not the steak. Okay, look at this coin. Look at its return. Well, what do they do? Now that I've already made a couple percent, what did I actually do other than just watch that trend? Because, a lot of things have a trend. So I'm not saying that that's wrong either. The gambling aspect raises capital, right?
Yeah.
And to your point, which I think you were trying to make originally, as a lot of these meme coins do evolve into something with utility. And I was trying to explain this to somebody a couple weeks ago who was asking me, how do you go about marketing meme coins when they have utility? And the way I wound up explaining it to him is like a lot of these are essentially like SPACs. That you back the utility into it when you have traction, but 90% of not 90% of SPACs, but 90% of these meme coins fail below a 30K or 50K market cap.
And mostly because when they do bring that utility, if they do, the utility is not real. It's kind of, imaginable. It's, selling it to their consumers. And most of the time that's unsuccessful.
Right.
Well, how much actual due diligence is done on the companies that, if you're just doing the coin because of the name or something, and like that particular blockchain, like, do you verify that it does actually have a blockchain? Do you even do that at least?
Crowdsourced due diligence, right?
Yeah.
I actually, in the last 9 months, I should say, I fell into a group of degen traders, and I got like a very ground level. There was a bunch of them in prison. It was cool. But they've got a very ground level look at how that is done, and both from the caller side, which would be equivalent to like a CNBC analyst for Wall Street, and from the dev side, which would be equivalent to JP Morgan or market maker of some kind, right? And the devs, the due diligence is a combination of these callers, these influencers that generally know who the devs are, and generally know how to analyze a smart contract, and then they throw that out to these and we're talking at like $0 market caps, and they throw these opportunities out to their channels that may have somewhere between 100 and 10,000 people in it, that all throw $50 to $1,000 at the opportunity, if they, depending upon how it's presented by the caller. And every one of them is doing their own due diligence, and how a meme coin or a degen launch fares in every one of these little channels in its first couple of hours determines whether it dies a crib death or it becomes the next Shiba Inu.
So I personally have not traded these kinds of coins. I've been in a lot of groups similar to what Mark is describing here, and it's almost like a cult following. It's almost like, you'll have a couple of teams of developers who have a proven track record, and they have a lot of money, and whales play a big part into this, right? Because one person could move the coin thousands of percent, and what happens is exactly what Mark says, is people just look at the developers, they look at the smart contracts, they look at the team and what their track record is, and then pretty much it goes out in different group chats and people pump it, and it all happens very quick. So if you're not watching it from the first couple of minutes to the next couple of hours, if it succeeds, then the train goes really fast. So there's no logic behind it.
See, that's the thing that gives me the pause, right? And until it ceases to be, and until it becomes some type of a utility play with an addressable market, and then you can figure out what that total addressable market is, it makes me hard to take it seriously as something that I would invest in.
Seriously, right?
Well, the only one that we actually did ended up failing. So, I know the utility and I know when you can do it, but there's a time to do it and there's a time not to. And the time not to, unfortunately, is when everyone puts their money in it. That's why it's called the bubble, right?
Well,
like these SPACs aren't new. They've been around forever. Right. And your hope is within 2 years, you can find a company that wasn't going to be able to go public on its own, and then you just do a reverse merger, right?
Yeah.
And then you get a pipe, and but I get it. No, I get it. I know that the whole idea behind it is that it survived based on crowdfunding, but it's popular money, right? That's sometimes the dumb money, and hopefully one of them makes it. But I just keep looking at all of these different companies like AMC, Bed Bath and Beyond, like the meme companies that were propped up and held in place by people that had additional equity and capital burn at the time. And now, if you saw those same people, well, I mean, right now, they probably would do the exact same thing. You saw what happened with NVIDIA, right?
Yeah. It was
So I did not until like 30 seconds before the show. So tell me what's going on with NVIDIA.
So they had their earnings call last night, and they knocked it out of the park. Now their total market cap, I got to see this real quick.
it's getting into the trillions from what I read.
So they like it may be the first. They think it may be the first $1 trillion company. Now here, I'm going to caveat this by saying that I don't own it, and I'm regretful on that because nobody wants to not make money when everyone else is. I'm a huge fan of widgets. I'm a huge fan of the company that actually makes the zippers for jeans and pants, because it's like one company and they do everything, right? They do the building blocks.
Like TI or something.
Right. So same thing. So NVIDIA crushed their earnings, just destroyed it based on what? Based on the fact that we just had, they had the GPU chipset that everyone was using for crypto, and now they've got enormous orders because of AI, because all the data centers want the most amazing chip.
Doesn't make sense to me.
So let me finish. The whole point is that I was having a hard time with it. I was talking to an institutional guy that I'm going to see later, who's been a friend of the show, and we were chatting about it, and just out of disgust. Here's the thing. Overnight, a company that's that big is up 26%. I don't know what it's up right now, and I don't even want to look, but it's up a lot, and that's a lot of money. And just like you said earlier, it's not 100% of the company that is held that's public, right? Yeah. So it's just people that are buying and selling it, and based on that share price multiplied by the number of outstanding shares, this gives you your market capitalization. Right. But it's up a tremendous amount of money in one day on one company, which has actually lifted up the entire NASDAQ, right? Because they believe that AMD and ASML and some of these are going to come out with crazy earnings. But it's just amazing that how many data centers are there? How many chips are they going to have to buy? Can you convert the chips from these Bitcoin rigs that people are walking away from in their data centers? How many chips do you really have to make? And are you going to keep making? I don't know. But so the thing is, I said my contention was oh my God, how could you possibly buy it at this price and this valuation? And his retort to me was well, if you actually listen to their call, what they basically said was that we're cheap relative to what our earnings are, or what the earnings that just came in. We're actually cheaper today, right now, at our multiple than we were yesterday at the old multiple.
Do you think there's any backing behind that? Have you done any due diligence on it?
Well, you can't tell. I mean, I'm not a bottom up money manager, which is to say that I don't have a full research staff underneath me to go and dig through all their accounting to figure out the answer to that question. Based on the public information that I see, it's mathematically blows me away. It's just
I got to sit down with the numbers. This is actually the same thing I used to do at the Cube, so I can actually sit down and probably talk to some of the old analysts and get an answer.
It's just
it is a just shy of $1 trillion on the market cap. If you it's over there on the side.
Oh wow!
Look at that, 941.
Wow. You were looking at me like I was crazy.
Yeah, no, I still am. Well, this is insane.
More than one,
believe my eyes.
But if you take a look at some of the other big companies, I mean, for chips.
Well, but here's the thing, right? So, if you asked me in the absence of this data and reality, apparently, to analyze what's going on, right? So you're talking about the biggest glut surplus of graphics chips in human history, coming off of the Ethereum merge to proof of stake. So there's never been more demand for GPUs prior to an event, and then complete absence of it after an event, ever for NVIDIA. And then you're telling me that, and those, by the way, these are the same GPUs that are useful for LLM style AI analysis. So you can move that entire, which is what I was crediting why GPT and all these LLMs were so cheap and almost free, is because they've got all these graphics cards that they can subsume that were previously being used for Ethereum's proof of stake that no longer work. And you're telling me that AI has blown up that much that not only have we gone from the biggest surplus of GPUs to basically almost doubling the value of the company that makes them, and that's cheap? What? I guess you're right, but like, wow. That's crazy.
I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, it just came out, and I'm still trying to wrap my hands around it. I just know that, as I said, I love widgets, and they are the widget, right? The GPU is what does a lot of the work, the processing power to do the work that we think is going to happen over the next X number of years. But then again, I also remember Netscape and AOL and all these companies that were first, that didn't finish first. So is it their GPU that's going to be the one forever? Is ASML or is somebody else, or Taiwan Semiconductor, or
they bought everybody else in the GPU space? Right. So, over the last 10 years, they've eaten all their competitors.
I mean, just from a logic standpoint, though, I feel like there could be backing to these statements about, where their price is at. Just if you think about the next couple of years and even the past few years that have just happened, I mean, the amount of computing just continues to progressively get higher and higher. And it almost seems like it compounds, right? When we have new technologies like crypto and AI, the need for these things compound, because before crypto mining, gamers used it, it was for special and certain situations, but then crypto became adopted a lot more by people. So we started using that. Now we're seeing the same thing with AI. Well, next year it's going to be the next thing. And the next thing is probably going to have to do with both of these, with both crypto, AI, and something that is unforeseen at the moment. But from a logical standpoint, I think this is a good thing. I think you're seeing people buying this kind of equipment in order to build and make the next progression.
Okay, so I'll just throw one more bit of skepticism and see how the table responds, right? So it made sense to me when NVIDIA was doing well, when mining was the driving factor behind it, because you don't buy a card and pump electricity through it unless you're making more than the total cost of both of those things.
Right.
AI is far from profitable now.
Yeah, it's true. But I will say I've seen a lot of things on NVIDIA having many AI features that are leaps ahead of other companies. I mean, just with their photo and video editing capabilities right now, and I believe it's only if you have the NVIDIA GPU. I could be completely wrong, though.
Yeah, I read something about some of their proprietary tech for sure. But still, as you said, like when you're mining, you've got a stable amount of power, and it's processing at a consistent rate, addressable. And this goes to, if you're taking a look at, I hate dead assets, right? So if you have something that's not working at capacity, like how do you beat when you've got a guaranteed return on that churn? And of course, when you know that your technology or your power consumption or the value of your power is over a certain level, then it's not efficient anymore, and to turn off the machines, right? So, but again, what it really still comes back to is like, who buys used chips, right? That's always been frustrating to me for years. I would buy new servers every couple of years, and I'm like, well, what do I do with this? And I'd throw it away. I was like, well, can't you just repurpose any of this stuff? No, whatever, that's an aside. But like, you've got something that's using the full capacity of the resource when you're mining.
Right.
But when you're doing AI, it's going to come in spurts. Now the difference is, somebody's probably willing to pay you a pretty tremendous amount of money if you have a big data company and you want them to crunch your data, right? And when it's a brand new technology, you get to make up the new prices.
Yeah.
Right. That's the big thing. So it's like, can you keep that subscription model going? Or as time moves on, is that going to come down in price too? It always does, right?
Yeah.
It always does.
Yeah.
So
I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
I'm just curious about it. Look, and the chips are just one part of it, right? Because you've got the technology it's going to be built on and the addressable markets that it's going to serve. And
yeah. I think the stock and what they're doing has two completely different things. I don't think it's going to be reflective, in true reality of like the impact they're making, or if they're actually making that impact in the first place. I mean, it's the stock market. I could argue that's gambling too.
Yeah. Well,
I already disproved that. I disproved it by saying that it's a positive number, not a negative number. You go to Vegas, the best odds in the house, period, are still over you.
investing is
against
not
you.
gambling, but trading still is. No matter
Trading
what.
is, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and to go back to, I mean, I know we moved on from the degen thing for a while, but that point brought back something I was going to say. The strategy, if you are an investor in that degen world, always looking for
Right.
those little meme coins and things to go after, is much closer to VC investing and trading than it is like any type of other like equities market, because it's a shotgun approach. You don't ever go all in on any meme coin because just like with VC investing, it's all going to zero except for that one unicorn.
I would agree with that. You're just hoping to get one meme coin that hits, and the other nine
Make
are
some
going to
generational
fall.
wealth on a
but you
PayPay
still-
frog or something.
You absolutely still have to do your research and kick the tires and talk to people and figure it out
yeah.
as if it was going to be the one that was the unicorn. You can't just do that shotgun like as you
Right.
say. It's like, that sounds like a great idea. Now, I will tell you that people will do that over and over again. I was talking to a new prospect. He's not a client yet. Yesterday, we were chatting. He was like, "Yeah, I was talking to somebody and they told me that they wanted me to put, it was $250,000 minimum to do this one thing." And I said, "Well, what is it?" And he really didn't know. And I was like, "And you're interested in doing it because somebody said that you had to put $250,000 into it." You see, now that you're with me, the default answer is going to be no. And that's nice that you said it's going to be 250,000. Maybe if we get along and it looks okay, maybe we'll do 25.
Yeah.
It's just that there's always people are throwing up barriers to entry. It's the takeaway. They want you to throw money at something because it's restricted to other people.
It's the sizzle,
you
not
want to
the
feel,
steak.
you want to feel special.
Yeah.
Well, you can feel special on something a little smaller, and you can feel special on something that if it doesn't pass the sniff test, you're out.
As a financial advisor, do you see a lot of people, or particularly wealthy people, just kind of throwing their money at things without even really understanding what they're throwing it at?
It depends on how they got their money,
Yeah.
and it's that simple.
So break it down a little bit.
You're either a saver or a spender, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how you save or how you spend. Like as a guy, traditionally, you're going to spend money on something because you need it right now,
Right.
not because you've done research and you think it looks great or it smells great. I need deodorant. I'm just going to go to the store and I'm just going to grab whatever it is, right? But other personality types are like you've got growth investors versus value investors. A growth investor is I don't care what it costs, it looks really cool.
Yeah.
Value investors like, wow, those are still shoes and they still work and they're on sale.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now which one gets more value? It depends on what you use it for and how long you're planning on doing it. And that goes out to your time horizon.
Right.
It could get real complicated, but really it's all still the same thing. You want to throw your money at something that you know and that you're comfortable with. It's like Peter Lynch used to say, it was like you invest in what you know, right? And I tell my clients this all the time, no matter what you do for a living, if you see something that's really cool in your industry that you think is like life-changing, please tell me about it because I don't do that for a living.
Yeah.
You're our best due diligence, kick the tires first, let me know and let's find out.
Right.
But that's that's what I've got on that. I don't even know what we were talking about before. I just got into a ramble.
I love it. I love it. That's how
we
you
were
know
talking
you
about
enjoy it.
do the rich be as frivolous with their investment dollar as us unsophisticated plebes?
So people who tend to make their own money tend to spend as little as possible on their expenses and let their profits run. And people who have acquired it quickly, whether it's inheritance, lottery, or sale of a business, or married into it, it doesn't have the same actual value, and so it's easily separated from the
so
person.
when it feels like house money, as
Yeah.
opposed to money you got from selling the house that you worked 20 years to afford.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think that is? Is that like something in human nature, or is that just, what is that? Because I find it very interesting.
What's weird is I've always been kind of that saver type. Don't get me wrong, man. This came from food, but so I'll spend some money. But on certain things, I'm just really cheap. And I found myself in Europe just because the money had, like, at the time, this was before the euro, but like it had 20,000 lira. I was like, well, this is awesome. It was easier to spend.
Yeah.
Too. So I don't know if it has to do with location, physicality. I don't know. I can tell you that other people's money felt a lot easier to spend than like the stuff that I'm used to, and I know what the value was. When you know what the value is, you think you're getting taken anyway. So what's a little more, right?
Right. I mean, that's kind of why, part of why I think venture capital works is because, I mean, most of the people that I know, at least in this part of the world, not Silicon Valley types that graduate from Stanford, but they don't have $6 million to spend on a whole bunch of developers and marketing folks. So they're going to, if they're self-funded, bootstrapped, then they're going to scrimp and save, and they're probably not going to succeed because you're not getting crazy you're not swinging for the fences.
Right.
But someone dumps $5 million in your lap and says, go solve the problem you said you want to solve, then you actually spend the money because it's not yours.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely psychology. There's definitely psychology in it.
Yeah, no question.
And oh my goodness, there are times where you see it coming too, and you can try to steer them to not do it, but you just know, like, you just resign. You just get to a point where you just resign. Oh, it's done.
Yeah, it's interesting. Everybody's different, right? But I think there's something about human nature that intrigues this part of every person, and the way you have your money and the way you understand money changes the way you live on a day-to-day basis, and I think that's very interesting.
Yeah. Now, we don't know each other's background very much at all, so I do know you just graduated. Congratulations.
Thank you.
graduated from SMU. You got your degree in
real estate finance and entrepreneurship.
Great.
Yeah.
And how was that financed?
My parents.
Okay.
Yeah, I had some scholarship as well.
Good,
But
good.
for the most part, it was my parents.
Which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
These are just probing questions that I would ask any,
Yeah.
So that was financed by funds that were probably set aside for you in the past for that. And how were you a steward of that money? Was that done? Did you do it in 3.5 years? Did you do it in 5? Did you do it in...
My schooling?
Yeah.
No, I did it in 4 years, normal.
Okay.
Ended with a really good GPA. Ended with all A's and had a great, just 4 years there. Represented the school in some real estate competitions, started the blockchain club there. So I feel like I definitely tried to give back as much as possible. Obviously I couldn't financially, but now that I'm working, it's a very interesting. I've always had
and you worked your way through school too,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. I was working since I started college. Originally it was in real estate, and then I kind of shifted over into crypto. But I've always thought about this with money, just because, my family's from Russia and they didn't have anything, and they started businesses in America when they moved here and immigrated here, and they didn't have an education, right? So I've always thought about.
So you see the value in it.
Yeah, for sure. Right. I see the value in it probably more than most of my peers, just because I have this understanding. My parents are savers, but they're also spenders. So it's like I've seen both sides of the coin, and I've always just watched, and it's like it's something about every human and their experience and their belief system, right? Which you can say this about most things in life, but I think it goes back to your belief system. And for me, I always saw how hard my parents worked to get to the point that they were at, and why that money is valuable, where, yeah, you can maybe spend it here or there, but it's valuable because of the hard work and everything that got you to that point. So for me now, I'm thinking about it again very differently, because now I am working and now I understand it in a whole new layer that I didn't before. So it's cool. It's very interesting. I don't think there's any emotions attached, right? There's no right way, there's no wrong way. It's not good or bad. In some instances, it could be very bad, actually. But I think for every person, for their life experience, it's different. And yeah.
Did you see? You probably saw the whole spectrum of students while you were there. There was ones that you knew were going to make it, and some that you think are just like, wow.
Yeah,
this is a lot of fun for you for the next 4 years.
Yeah, so it was crazy. There were some kids, you know, just money was like growing on trees, and there were some kids who didn't really have any. So it's cool.
SMU is an interesting place for that.
Oh, it's a bubble, man.
Yeah.
It's a bubble. It's a really small school. Like, it's actually crazy. It's like 6,000 people undergrad.
This is just amazing.
Yeah,
How
it is beautiful. Is that? All right, but we did trail off of our crypto and finance conversation before we get into this thing that I've been hearing with Sam Altman and OpenAI starting like a crypto-backed eye scanning program. I heard today, this is completely separate. I heard today that FTX is trying to start FTX 2.0.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard this?
Yeah.
No.
How is it? How? It's not going to work. But the problem is they're still going to get money somehow.
Oh yeah, 100%. So there's two things happening. Maybe three that I know. See, which one is this? FTX is undertaking a series of.
Hey, market closed.
Oh, there we go.
That was a cool notification.
So this is, if you can scroll down just a little bit, this is the one, this is like FTX International, right? The ftx.com, not .us, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this is awful. Okay, so ftx.us is trying to restart because, as Sam has attested on national TV several times, it was never insolvent. Okay, sure. Well, maybe, but...
neither was First Republic Bank. They still get taken over, you know.
Then there was
you're not coming back.
An effort about, I would say 3 months ago. It was before I got out, and it was of some former executives from Alameda, FTX, and Terra Luna trying to start a new exchange, and they were calling it GTX, I think.
I heard about that.
Yeah,
a while ago.
And now, like,
how does that work? Like, how do you just mess up so bad and then go 2.0? Like, there's no logic behind this.
Yeah.
I think sorry, I probably should put myself on the screen, but the GTX thing was unrelated, though, right?
It's unrelated.
Naming.
Unrelated to this, but I mean, it was still people from the failed organizations trying to start a new exchange.
Yeah.
What happens, like, I was thinking about this the other day. What if you're just in an organization, especially in the crypto space, and you're a good person and you're doing your job and, you know, you work at FTX and then that kind of thing happens and now that's on your resume?
So here's what I've noticed. Being in startups and being in venture-backed world and crypto world, but mostly it's less to do with crypto and more to do with venture-backed stuff. There is a class of entrepreneur that fails upward his entire life. I just got out of an organization at a DAO. If you Google the DAOs that I'm involved in and things I've tweeted out, you'll figure it out. I'm not going to put him on blast here, but he knows who he is. He has had nothing but failed startups his entire career, and he just got another $2 million. Okay, and this is after Free Ross DAO. God dang, I just put him on blast. Hey, this is after the DAO that we're involved in. You can bleep that out for the final version. But it's after the DAO we were involved in together failed, and his main gig, his day job, also was on the brink of failure. And then he goes to the people that invested in both of those failed things, and they give him another $2 million to fail some more. Like, there are just some people who, I don't know if it's their...
They have like a touch.
They're charlatans or snake oil, or it's just like a circular grift or something. They always find money.
Yeah. They just know how to talk. They have it, right?
They know how to sell it. Yeah, like that guy who did the Fire Festival. I think they're running that back too. All these people, all these scammers, they're just scammers at the end of the day.
Yeah. I love it. It's like the bag holders, right? That's what they talk about.
It's crazy.
Greater fool.
Yep.
Oof.
There's someone out there. There's someone out there that's buying. You know?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
All right. So on this OpenAI thing, have you guys heard of this?
I mean, it's kind of the same topic if you ask me.
Yeah. So I don't really know everything exactly, but my understanding is they want some company to scan your eyes For what purpose? I'm not sure. How is it going to work? Through cryptocurrencies.
So I'll be honest. This WorldCoin thing is why I ignored ChatGPT for as long as I did, because I felt like because he talked about WorldCoin publicly long before he was talking about AI. I thought Sam Altman was a scammer because of WorldCoin, because it is a completely untenable idea.
What?
I understand the thought behind the utility of the coin, but it's never going to work.
So is it what, just supposed to be for everybody in the world? Sorry, could you give some more context?
It is a KYC coin that supposedly protects your pseudonymity if you want to use it. But there's a big problem with NFTs, and there's a big problem with a lot of on-chain DeFi activity, in that you can Sybil attack things because of the anonymity and pseudonymity that exists on blockchain. And with the NFT world, there is a data oracle problem, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can mint the NFT for the Mona Lisa, and then you can do the same thing, and the Louvre can do the same thing, and the blockchain itself doesn't know who is the authoritative person, because we don't have a standardized data oracle system.
Right.
WorldCoin is trying to be the data oracle for identity. The problem is, you've got to go to, there's only 2 data oracles in the world with a physical apparatus that scans your eyeball and puts it on the chain.
Yeah.
How is that supposed to scale?
Yeah.
I remember when.
No, first of all, I don't want my iris scan on the blockchain anyway.
Yeah.
And second of all,
someone's going to find you. It's like, I don't care who it is, whoever this guy is. We're going to reprogram his car, and he's going to go into the Potomac. I remember when the secure, making sure that you encrypted your emails end to end, and you could get, 2 or 3 different people. It was like the equivalent of a notary for security. And I was like, this is a great idea. This is how everyone should send email. And then it never happened. Nothing. No one ever cared that much. Right.
right.
Like right now, when it comes to a lot of these financial sites, it's like, it used to be really secure, and now it's like, just type in your code.
Yeah.
I feel like there's just
it's because reputation, and part of this is due to the way that the internet has evolved, right? Commercialized internet endeavors have all this top-down thing to it. And so when we've tried to come to any type of solution that solves reputation for the internet, it always tries to be top-down universal.
Right.
But I think what we've starting to see, or hopefully we're starting to see, is that reputation is more federated than anything. The sites where you can trust everybody in that community is because you know everybody in that community, or somebody knows them.
Yeah. So,
which is how reputation always is supposed to work anyway.
So Sam Altman, I have fears about him. I don't like this guy. I think he plays this kind of character, when he's in court, that he's trying to help humanity, and he's worried about the developments of AI, and if it gets into the wrong hands, and this and that. And you start thinking about it, and they always say if something is too good to be true, it probably is. And I think that is the exact scenario we're dealing with here with Sam. He just seems too good to be true. I mean, he's going on public record to the government saying, he basically wants to save humanity. Come on.
And he wants AIs to have licenses.
Yeah,
Did
but
you see
that's,
that?
I didn't see that.
that's building a deeper, wider moat for himself, right?
That's
Because
exactly
he's
what I'm
already
saying.
there.
It's regulatory
So
capture.
it's exactly.
Of course he's going to say that.
Yeah.
So that way, well, of course everyone else needs to be regulated. I'm already out. So as aspirin, you can't get rid of me. But yeah, of course, we definitely need to protect.
And he's
the
cradling
answer
it,
is
and we
we
gotta save the
absolutely need to
children,
Crazy.
The truth is, all of these, there's going to be a shakeout. Someone's going to survive, and someone isn't, and someone's going to get really rich, and someone, and a lot of people aren't going to, and they're going to keep playing this game. This is not a new game, unfortunately.
But I think
that there's a lot of money on the
if we read between the lines because to me, and maybe you and I are just the most cynical people in the world, but to me, I felt like that was just naked regulatory capture. Because he's describing a scenario. This is what Jim was on the show.
Yeah.
We're talking about how Lindsey Graham starts describing basically Terminator, and Sam Altman's like, "Oh yes, and that's why we need to license AI." Okay, really?
Yeah.
I mean, like, how you're telling me that if it wasn't for Sam Altman and his hand on the plug of the server, that ChatGPT is going to rebel and start killing us all? Is that really the scenario? Because if that's the case, then what are you doing, guy?
Well, word on the block is it's not even him in control. It's really Microsoft.
Yeah.
I've heard Microsoft completely runs the show in the back.
Well, but that's what Microsoft tried to do with Facebook too. I don't know if you remember that, or if you're too young for that. But
I'm definitely too young for that.
Facebook's first $1 billion investment was from
Microsoft.
Was from Microsoft. It was when Gates was transitioning to Ballmer, and they threw $1 billion into Facebook to legitimize it as a startup, and everyone's like, that's an insane amount of money. Why would Microsoft dump $1 billion into a social network that's not even as big as MySpace?
Yeah.
And then Facebook became Facebook.
They must have made a killing off that.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. Yeah.
Cool.
So I mean, that's to me that I would say ChatGPT is probably
Similar
situation.
Yeah.
We're going to go $20 billion into ChatGPT. We're crazy. That is a lot of money, but
so not being the software guy, I'm curious. So I had seen Ryan actually take a link and drag it and drop it and say, summarize this or do this, or,
on ChatGPT?
On ChatGPT.
Wow.
And here's my thought. Like, you get these links all day, and I'm sure they're going to get affixed to it if they haven't already, but can you just take a link to like one of these sites that like gives you the page that says, it lets you read it for a second and then it takes it away? Is that quick enough for it to summarize it before it actually gets locked down?
oh yeah.
Yeah. So without having a subscription to the Wall Street Journal, you can drag and drop it and it'll give me the summary?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
I didn't understand what you were saying at first, but
in between
I'm gonna start doing that.
in between the time that you saw Ryan do that, our last roundtable, and this Sunday, they added direct Bing integration into ChatGPT.
Yep. Oh yeah. I've been using this like every day.
It's
Direct
crazy.
It's amazing.
It's a little
integration.
buggy.
It's a little buggy. So it's not basically it can go on the internet and it's powered by Bing, which is Microsoft, obviously.
Right.
It's really cool. I've been waiting for this feature because Google was the first AI that could be on the internet. Google's AI, horrible. It literally gives you misinformation on purpose when it does not have a right answer. I digged into it because I was doing a project for school actually, and I wanted to avoid doing all the research. So I asked the Google's Bard to do it, and it gave me literally fake information. And I asked it, why are you giving me this information? Because it's wrong. And they're like, I'm so sorry. I thought giving you an answer would be better than not giving you an answer. So it literally gives you fake information, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But now ChatGPT has that too. And it's really cool because you can also see what the AI is doing, like when it's like browsing on the web, when it clicks on a web page, when it's reading it. It's pretty interesting. But it works pretty well.
So, by the way, GPT 3.5 used to do the same thing.
Really?
Like you would be able to give it a link, right? Just a link to an article.
Right. No, I know that, but it wasn't able to fully be capable of going on the internet.
Oh, no. I'm saying it would hallucinate like Bard would.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Like you would give it a link and it would go, okay, and it would write an entire summary for an
Oh, my
article that
gosh,
it
okay.
completely imagined.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
That it still does that.
Right. Right.
These things are still in development. They're amazing though. It's just mind blowing what you can do with this stuff. I truly think like in the next couple of years, especially for my generation, like you need to know how to use this stuff and be a master of it, or you're going to have very serious problems in the future.
Yeah.
I have a client who is a writer, and he, like other writers, has certain projects that he's working on and certain projects that he abandoned, right? You've done some stuff like that. And I was begging him. I was like, this is your opportunity to get ahead of your peers. If you're a purist for writing's sake, I get it. That's fine. But if you want to make some money, there's that balance. It's like, in this case, I said, why don't you do me a favor, just cut and paste what you've written so far and drop it into AI and say, finish this book and see what it comes up with. And he won't do it. Oh. And I'm begging him to do it. I'm like, just do it. I want to see Like, I want to see what he'd think about it. Like, would he be really angry because it was good, or would he be really angry because it was not? You know,
So either way, lose.
but people who like that, who actually think that they're not going to be effective, that their particular part of art or their particular, what they don't understand, and what people I think that are purists when it comes to certain things like that. I just want to be entertained.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care. You know, I watched cartoons when I was a kid. Like, I knew it wasn't real. It just gave me something to do for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't care if you wrote it or if somebody else wrote it.
Yeah.
I think this stuff is interesting because I think a lot of people have a hard time with changing, right? Just in general, like change is hard for anything. And I was even thinking about this on the way here because I was researching the best energy drinks to drink. And I was thinking about how someone recently told me, like, they do their research on TikTok. This is someone my age, you know? And to me, it's even crazy. Like, instead of using Google, I'm using either ChatGPT or TikTok or some other social media. I mean, this is the way now, you know? And like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, the internet was crazy. Everyone was like, no, you go to books. And before books, I mean, I don't even know what it was. It was fucking like different manuscripts, ancient manuscripts.
I will never forget when it was like, you know, AOL converting over to this and this. And it was like, you didn't realize, I mean, you guys did, or you did, the user experience, right? For me, it was like, you know, I just, from the very beginning, AOL, it was like you plug in, you dial up. They've got these different apps. You got mail over here, you've got your browser, and you have these different windows. And that was my access to the internet. I didn't realize that if I were a really, you know, astute technology guy, I would be able to see the zeros and ones and know what it was doing. But that's not my bag. I don't care about that. I just wanted it to do what I want. But you don't think about all the ways that they steer you. And the fact that we're not saying Googling it, you know, it's like I dropped it into ChatGPT or I dropped it into Bard. Like, Google already, well, with the exception of the fact that I'm sure they can navigate around it, and even if their name isn't as popular, but the fact that they let people saying, just Google it. And now it's like ChatGPT or Bard, right? It's not even Microsoft, it's Bard, right? So you know that one will spin off eventually.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, no, I think to your point about the researching on TikTok, the people that I hang out with, which as you guys know is a really diverse crowd of people, a lot of them are just like ChatGPT is a form of entertainment. It's like when clicking on Wikipedia and going to rat hole was it a kind of a thing to do before, you know, the rise of video on the internet. But like that's basically how a lot of people are, and it's not like a parasocial or virtual social relationship. It's just like kind of rabbit holing on information.
It's like how far can you push it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's entertaining at times too. Like, you can do really interesting stuff, and it doesn't feel like it feels so real. You're almost caught in the moment. You don't realize what's happening. Like,
to me though, I'll tell you, it makes me feel dumber. It really does, because I'll go in there, and I think that's part of the rabbit hole issue. Is like, well, what do you mean that? And it's like, what? And I never put all those together.
Every other prompt you have to ask, oh, what does this mean? Or could you explain that to me like I'm in 8th grade?
Yeah.
Well, but you know why that is, and you shouldn't feel dumb. You should feel human, right?
Yeah.
What these LLMs are able to do is poorly right now, but ultimately better, is become better pattern recognition machines. That's what human brains are.
Right.
We're pattern recognition machines. We're really bad at data storage. The fact that we can store a college education in our brains is pretty good, even when, you know, where it will decay very rapidly. But the LLMs have near perfect recall, which is why they can ace remember those test scores we were looking at. That's the real, they can ace all those scores because they just look in the database and the information's all there.
Yeah.
We can't do that. But we do see patterns that they don't see.
Right.
And so I see it as an opportunity to like, okay, so I can bridge my pretty decent recall ability to a database where I can use natural language inquiries, and I don't have to try to use Google foo and Boolean operators to figure out what the hell it is I'm trying to say, you know? That to me is, I feel like a cyborg. I like living in the future. Not so sure about the Sam Altman character, but his creation's kind of cool.
It is.
I'll give them that.
It's kind of like, and I'm going to geek out here on Star Trek for a second, but it's like kind of like just watching another thing. Like the iPhone and the iPod came out of Star Trek because they were like, well, I think Picard was like, play something that sounds like this. And they were like, well, that is actually kind of a good idea. Why don't we do that, right?
Yeah.
And now looking at OpenAI and what we're talking about here, it's just another thing. It's like, computer, find a way to calculate the temperature of the thing and adjust the shields to this module. It's like it's a natural language.
Yeah.
Right? It's natural language.
Natural language processing, yeah.
It's interesting how these things make us a little bit less human if you think about it, because you're automating everything to the point where you're almost not doing anything, where you're not experiencing things you would experience 20 years ago, you know?
Or maybe you'll just experience the things you want to, and other people will experience the stuff that they want to, right? Look, we always are going to have to find a way to feel productive, because if you don't feel productive, it gets boring watching. You can get to the end of the internet. Broke my ankle at the beginning of the wintertime in New York City. And I don't know if you know much about that, but like, there's not a piece of concrete that is more than 1/4 of an inch. So you're tripping all over the place if you've got crutches. So I spent a lot of time inside there during that summer, and you can get to the end of the internet.
I've yet to do that, but I will hopefully one day.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we got 5 minutes left or so.
It's going up.
Yeah, there was 10 minutes left. So we threw this thing up here. I don't know if I have a strong opinion on this. But DeSantis killed Twitter Spaces today or something.
It's not surprising.
Well, look, I mean, if you think about it, they took all the GPUs and put them over on AI. They didn't have enough to run Twitter.
There you go. Well, we were just talking last week about how, 2 weeks ago, how we dropped 80% of Twitter's staff and everything's working. But I guess.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a hardware issue, right? They didn't have enough power, compute, or whatever, from what I understand. I jest to some degree, but the other part of that equation is like, isn't it interesting that it happened though? They actually did it, and even though they didn't do it right the first time, now they have data and they can do it again in the future. Yeah. We know, like, if you look at every one of his rocket launches, they learned from it.
Yeah,
they're going to make it better.
Yeah, and in Twitter's case, I mean, like, they're trying to overcome Okay, I need to start this over. They're trying to do things they've never done before. So with the DeSantis thing, I mean, I'm sure this was probably one of the biggest spaces they have ever had, and you're bound to run into problems that they just were not aware of even existed, before it happened. So I think it's good. They're going to learn and they're going to get better from it, just like everything else.
I just want to say I love this. This is amazing. It's hilarious. And the fact that we talked about it last time. And I was going to say that forget Sam Altman. The only man I'm going to give my eyeballs to is Elon Musk. My boy. Right, Mark?
Shout out. Elon.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I do know this factoid because I was part of the Twitter space. The previous high water mark for Twitter Spaces was when Nayib Bukele, the president of El Salvador, randomly joined a Twitter space to announce that they were going to be buying a crap load of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And then every Bitcoiner and crypto person on the internet joined the Twitter space. And I think it was Nick Carter's space.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he made it public because some of the engineers behind the scenes said, yeah, this is like the biggest Twitter space we've ever had. So,
wow, that's crazy. Yeah.
I remember that day. I was walking out of a class and I just got a notification on my phone, like El Salvador makes Bitcoin legal tender.
Yeah.
I was like cheering all day. I was like, this is huge. Let's go. Pro crypto. Like, every government's going to do this in the next couple of years. And even to think, like, that was 2, maybe 3 years ago. Look at how far we've come now. Like, it's been a ride and it's been a uphill battle, but man, crypto is moving.
I've been in it since 2011. I got bad news for you if you don't like uphill battles.
Oh, yeah. I'm aware now. I've been in this since 2018, so it's not like, I know how it goes. We're going through a battle. We have been going through a battle, but I think it's good. I think it purges the bad actors out, the people who don't provide value, and I think the people who are really building something that will provide impact and value to society will stick around.
Right.
So
look, there's so much with a single ledger model that I think it's really going to help everything from the bottom of the food chain all the way through healthcare, right?
Yeah.
Because like when you know that it's a transaction that needs to be done, and you can do it with like actual data rooms, investment banking, anything to do with finance where there's no shady books, being able to know that there's not two ledgers, that's really powerful stuff. And I can't wait. I think it's going to be exciting. It's going to be harder to grift. It's going to be more, as I know our friend in the booth would be appreciative, that there's more transparency, and that's always good for innovation, because you know what you're worth. There's no slippage. There's no. Well, we'll see how long it's going to take. There may be a paper bag left on someone's porch to get something done, but we'll see.
Right. Well, I mean, so there was one really super geeky thing that came out this week, and I think what that I did want to highlight if we got a little bit of time left, but it was, I think it's been interesting to contrast how quickly AI adoption has taken off and compare that to how slowly it has been for crypto to take off. Like it's been over a decade, and we're still at the level we're at. AI has been around for 5 minutes, and it's like you said on your
the fastest growing platform in all of
ease of
history.
use. It's so easy.
I agree.
It's so easy.
The description of how to manage your own private keys is still not conveyable to your moms and your grandmoms and people that have only been using usernames. So there's something that came out, which I think everyone that watches this is going to need to pay attention to, is EIP 4337. This is so whenever like ERC20 is the name of like a fungible token, ERC 721 is a non-fungible token. This is called EIP, which is prior to ERC. It's a proposal. EIP 4337.
This came out a couple months ago, right?
It's
made a video
probably like
on
a few
this.
weeks ago, but it's gaining some traction. There's been a few announcements and some close to finalization.
Do you want to
break it down for us real quick?
Yeah, I mean the breakdown is super simple. You don't have to create a wallet to use the blockchain. It allows you to have a transparent in-browser experience where you still have custody of your own keys, but you don't. It generates it client side, and if you ever want to export it to a wallet, you can. But if you just want to interact with whatever this DApp is temporarily,
What if it's like buying NFTs on OpenSea, for example?
if you clear your browser cache, you're going to lose your NFT. If you export,
wow!
but if you export your NFTs or export your private keys to a backup, of some type.
So in one sense, it does solve one issue, but it also causes another, because if I'm somebody who's never used it, I clear my history on accident.
But what it does is it says, okay, number one, you can tie what's in your cache to a username and a password. Two, you can say, instead of making them memorize it, you can say, here's a zip file.
Yeah.
Don't put it in the cloud. Just put it on a thumb drive and put it in your closet. And if your browser cache ever gets cleared and you can't find your stuff, load it back in. We'll walk you through getting back into your wallet. So it takes that abstraction that has to do with the encryption and the asymmetric, all that stuff that's very mathematical and cryptographic. It takes that out of the equation and puts it more into the realm of like, a physical backup. I got it.
For sure. Well, I think, if it helps people get using this stuff quicker and easier, then it's going to work. But to the point you were making earlier about AI and how it's grown so fast, and to your point, I completely agree. It's all about the user experience. The fact that somebody could go on one website, use it like a Google. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to understand how it works. They don't have to understand private keys. It's a simple email and password login, and then within 5 minutes, you're using AI. That is why it grew the fastest. And that is the biggest thing about crypto in previous years and still today, is that there is no simple onboarding. There's no simple way. Man, I don't even understand the whole Bitcoin mining thing. And I'm, surrounded by that every single day now. And it's like, I'm still learning how much I don't actually know. And so until crypto gets to a point where it's so seamless, just like how OpenAI did for ChatGPT, we're not going to have, this same experience that OpenAI did and growing as fast as it did.
What I find fascinating about the AI potential is that, for someone who is a complete noob to actual technology and coding, I can use it. and I can use it well and have fun with it. Now, I equate that to being able to use a hammer, right? I can fix stuff and I can build some pretty basic stuff, but for somebody who's actually a craftsman and a tradesman, they could build a house, right? And it's very, like, you can get really complex with those large language models, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But with crypto, I almost feel like you have to be a technocrat already to really be able to get it.
This is why I say put this on
may
your
be
radar.
something.
This could be the thing that crosses the chasm.
Well,
Good.
thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I buried it in the last 2 minutes of the show, so it's only for the really smart folks. to
Yeah,
stick
the
with
ones
us.
who stay around, you know?
Yeah,
Or check us out on TikTok and Instagram. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It'll be up there.
yeah.
It'll be clipped.
There you go.
But this, I don't know how this is helpful because they're gonna. If they watch to the end, why would I tell them to? You know, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, it'll
we
be
got you.
something they can share with their friends and look really smart.
And Sohail, I think we made a video on this
Yes.
like 3 weeks ago, I swear.
On this,
Yeah, as soon as it came out, I saw it and I came here and I made a video on it.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, let's.
How was the follow-up?
Not good.
That's funny.
Not a lot of traction there, unfortunately. People aren't interested in how things work. They don't care. They care about what can I do with it and how easily can I do it.
Right now. Right now. And
Well,
that's what scares me. Right?
So
It's like,
here's the actual.
Right now,
Focus, do
yeah,
it.
yeah.
take your time, focus, do it.
Here's the actual insight for anybody that's sticking around that wants to know how can an EIP 4337 change my life, and that is if anything about crypto sounds fundamentally profitable, interesting, or like it might improve, but you have no clue as to how this stuff works. This is something you need to pay attention to because this could be the Lego brick that puts it and makes it accessible to your perhaps unsophisticated audience or unsophisticated client base.
Well, also, though, you have to make sure that whatever platform you're using or thing you're interacting with has this.
right.
And
well, it
that's
has
a
to be
whole
the
nother
EVM.
question. Yeah, it does. But how many things are using that right now? How many applications and apps or exchanges are already adopting that? You know.
Well, so this is a front end thing, right? So this is a browser
automatic.
implementation.
okay.
So you won't actually necessarily need to. It doesn't have a compatibility limitation with other dApps.
Next week, let's make a video on it together. Let's
do it.
All right. Cool.
Awesome.
Cool. Okay, I guess that's a wrap. We're going to say join us again next week for another one of these. But until then, I'm sure there's a bunch of boxes showing up around my face for you to click on other pieces of content. You should do one of those things, and then hit like and subscribe and the bell and all that other stuff.